today's video is another one from our Lockdown Diaries series. I'm so glad I'm getting to meet so many amazing people, albeit virtually, and discussing so many things. One of the things that I think we have talked about, even here on the series and otherwise, has been Indian matchmaking as a show on Netflix. And it is something that has been a huge discussion across so many platforms on social media, offline and otherwise. We spoke to Aparna recently and I couldn't think of a better guest for today's video just to keep that conversation going than Nadia. She's someone we've all seen on the show, loved on the show, and when I put out a story on Instagram for questions from all of you, I got some pretty juicy questions. So I'm really happy to have her on my channel here today. Let's not make this intro any longer and let's dive right into it. Hi Nadia, and welcome to my YouTube channel.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy to have you because I have to tell you that you seem to be a very popular favorite from Indian matchmaking. My Instagram stories went off the hook with how many people told me you were their favorite.
Oh, that's so sweet. Everyone has been so nice and supportive that it's really amazing.
I kind of like before, I'm gonna ask you questions about how it was being on the show and the aftermath of the show especially, but I kind of have to start from the beginning and ask you what got you to the show. I definitely want to know about that.
Yeah, so I am part of a dance company and we got a casting email. We get casting emails for projects all the time. And my girlfriend who runs the account, she's forwarded me this email and she was like, you should do this show. And I was like, oh my gosh, don't be silly. And the email subject line was like, are you a single South Asian millennial? And I was like, yeah, I guess so. And so, I kind of sat on it for a little while because I was like, this thing looks fake. I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. Like, let me just try. And so I applied. I had like 1 or 2 calls and then they said, oh, like you'll hear from us by the end of the year. So in December, I followed up with them and then didn't hear anything. Not until like the following year in March did they message me and they were like, hey, are you still single? I was like, yes, I am. Thank you for making me type that out. And so that was it. I started, going through the rest of the process, which was quite expensive. And then here we are.
That's amazing. The rest is history. Was it exactly what you anticipated? Like, did it roll out the way you had thought it would once they gave you like the details and told you what it was going to be like?
I honestly, I say it in the show, I try and go into things with very low expectations. So for me, this was fake until I saw that it was real. And so, each step of the way, they showed up to my house and they put me on dates and then all of this stuff. And then when I went to be, I was like, whoa, this happened. But I think it did, roll out. There are some things from like, behind the scenes of them like setting up lighting in different restaurants and, like coming to my house and setting things up there, and they just completely transformed a room. Like those types of things really blow my mind, the way that they do lighting and things like that. But otherwise it was pretty much, I guess, what I expected from what I thought was a fake thing the whole time.
Well, it turned out to be pretty great for a fake show. You have to admit that. But how did it feel to like go on dates? Because you're here meeting men for the first time. This isn't even like cameras following you around for like someone you've been seeing. They're literally monitoring the way you interact with people for the first time. You meet them on the first date. What was that feeling like? Because I've tried to think about it while watching the show and I don't know if I would have had it in me to have cameras follow me to a date.
Honestly, I felt very comfortable in front of the camera because I used to model when I was younger and I'm a dancer. I've been a dancer my whole life. So having people watch me do things felt normal. And so I was okay. And I felt like what the viewer saw was kind of like exactly me. I laugh, I cry, they saw me dancing, they saw me, at work, like doing weddings and stuff like that with my family. And so I think I felt very comfortable in front of the camera. And so my like true self was able to come out.
I think the max relate moment was when I saw you crying about just like hormonal mood swings when you were on your period, and I was like, this is me, this is me, this is what I do. I know I'm being unreasonable, but I'm on my period, so let me cry.
Oh my gosh, I remember that morning. I had gotten it like the night before. I was working the night before. I had a wedding, and that morning I woke up and they were like, okay, we'll be at your house by this time, like very early. And they were like, be ready by this time. And I had got my period, and I was like, I have to put this white dress on and go sit on my couch and like talk about my feelings. And then each question, like slowly and surely, like chipped away at something, and then just one question, and I was like, and the waterworks just started. So it was, I mean, I honestly had just like, okay, I hope they cut that out, because like, I can't believe I just said I had my period. But then after seeing it back, I'm like, this is my favorite moment in the show.
It really was, because not only was it relatable, but I also, for a change, saw that the memes that came out of that were actually really nice and like supportive of women, like just being able to be like, let me be, I'm on my damn period, like leave me alone.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so much stigma around like saying the word period or saying the word vagina or like anything like that, like and so I was happy that they kept that in, because I was just like, this is something that women go through, every single woman, and every single month, and it's something that just goes so unacknowledged for something that happens so regularly. And to me, that was, you know, it was like kind of an empowering moment that they kept that in. And I was like, yeah, I'm on my period, it's fine, I'll talk about it.
But you didn't cringe when you saw any part of the show, I'm guessing, because like you had a pretty let's just say you had a really noteworthy role. Like you were seen, you were visible, there was a lot of screen time. Was there any time when you look back and you cringed for something you were wearing or something you said? Or did you ever look back and be like, I could have phrased that better? Like, did you have any of those moments while watching it?
Yeah, I would say two things. One was when I was myself, my mom, and my Aunt Pam were talking to Seema Auntie, and she was giving me my biodatas for the first time. There was like some hair that was falling out, and my mom was sitting right next to me. I was like, Mom, you didn't tell me that my hair was falling out. So I would say that was the first thing where I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, my hair, like it literally was just like a few pieces like this, and I was like, Mom, what? Like, you didn't say anything? So that was one. And then, I mean, secondly, you know, some of my dates didn't really play out very well. And I think, you know, I spent almost a year trying to get over that, and, you know, reliving it again now on such a huge stage was tough. So that was a little bit strange to go through again. But otherwise, I think everything was, like I said, like exactly me.
That's so nice. I feel really happy that you don't really like, you don't come across as someone who's like looking back and has any regrets about the way the show played out, because you just seem so you. By the way, for those of you who don't know, this is because you mentioned hair. For those of you who don't know, we actually got talking on Instagram about hair. That's literally what we started talking about in the DMs at first. I was like, who is your hairstylist? And when I'm there next, I want to go to your hairstylist.
She is the godsend. Like, ever since I found her, my hair has just been on point all the time. So yeah.
I also
Veronica.
kind of
I kind of want to circle back to something you said in the earlier point, which is just about like being able to talk about period, right? I want to just particularly say, and I don't want to dive really into this subject, but I want to say that there was this bit in the on the show when you said that you haven't stood up for yourself so many times in the past, and that you did on the show. And I'm sure so many girls and young women out there could relate to that. When you said that, I have goosebumps right now, but I had goosebumps when I heard you say that on the show, and I was like, this is so true. Like, there comes a point of time in all of our lives when we're like, you know what, this is it. I'm about to flip my switch and be like, I'm gonna stand up for myself. And you don't know how many women you encouraged out there to do the same for themselves. So for all the girls who watched it and felt the same way I did, like, I haven't been single for 6 years. I'm married. I've been married for 3 years, but it just took me back quite a bit in my head where I was like, yeah, I've been there and I can relate to that. So thank you for putting that messaging out there, because I think as women we forget to do that sometimes, and we need to be able to hold ourselves to a higher standard in life.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's so many times where I'm like, okay, you know, where something would happen or someone would treat me poorly and I'd be like, oh, it's fine, don't worry. But like deep down that like it freaking hurt. And then, you know, you're like, okay, it's fine, like they won't do that again. And then it happens again, or something else happens, and then this and this, and it just kind of builds up. And I mean, now I'm in my 30s and I'm like, this is not okay. You know, like no one should be able to do that to you. And I think, you know, understanding self-respect, you know, truly understanding it and being like, I'm sorry that this happened, but this is not okay, and what you did is wrong. And so I'm, you know, for myself, it was a big growing moment. And like you said, I hope other people are empowered to stand up for themselves, or that girls learn to do this earlier, because, you know, I went through a lot of crappy relationships before I realized, like, hey, it's okay to tell someone, like, you suck. Like, maybe not in those words, but like in a nice way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like so I actually do this series on my channel called Self Care Sundays, where I talk about life experiences. And I always say that, you know, we as women, we tend to hold, like, we always say, don't let the man treat you like this, or don't let your boss treat you like this. But I'm like, no, it's not just the man, or it could also be your best friend. Don't let anyone hold you to a standard that's short of your own standard. And when you said that, it just kind of like, it resonated with me, and I'm sure so many young women across who were like, yes, we need to be able to say this is not okay and stick up for ourselves. But speaking of stick up for yourselves, this is a question that I definitely wanted to ask you. I noticed on the show, and I actually had a conversation with Aparna as well a couple of days ago, and I realized that your treatment on the show was so nice from Seema Auntie. And then there was poor Aparna, who was like not getting more than one option at a time. When you watched the show, what went through your mind? Like, did you feel like maybe because Seema Auntie liked you more, she kind of gave you more options without necessarily forcing you to be like, no, you meet one and then the other, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I felt very close. Auntie, she reminded me of my dance teacher growing up, and so I did feel very close to her. And I mean, I even said it on the show, like I felt like she was just my aunt who was there to help set me up with someone, which, I mean, everyone has like an aunt or two, if not all your entire family, who does that for you. But yeah, I don't know, I felt very, very connected to her, like kind of right away. And I didn't know the dynamic that she had with the other cast members. I mean, I only know kind of what happened to me. And so I just thought that was the way that everybody was given their matches. And so I didn't know any different, but yeah, I felt very close to her. And you know, we had such like a lovely time when she was here, and you know, we exchanged messages every now and then. So
That's so sweet. Is she still trying to find you a match? Is she still on the hunt for you?
We kind of pumped the brakes a little bit on the matching side. I'm just, you know, after the show came out, it's just been kind of a whirlwind. And so I was like, I will reach back out. You know, I know that she is there, and once I'm ready to process again, I'll definitely reach out.
That's so nice. There was a lot of conversation on social media, especially when you look at Instagram and Twitter. The world was on like two different sides, being like, yes, I've been through this, and yes, oh my god, no, I would not do this. But how has your life been post the show from a dating point of view? And I promise you, this is not a question I usually ask people. But there are so many questions that I got on Instagram that were like, has she found the one? Is she still seeing people? And then I had a couple of guys who like responded to my stories. Is she still single? Can I like DM her? And I was like, okay, I'll find out for you. I don't know where she stands.
Well, life post-show, or dating life post-show, well, one, we're in a pandemic, so like I wasn't really trying to date even before the show came out. But two, I've gotten more, like I have not, since the show came out, I've not gotten to the bottom of my DMs, and I am trying so hard. But guys, girls, all messaging me being like, I'll take you out, like I will marry you, I will, blah, blah, you know, all of those types of proposals. And it's just so sweet. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Seema Auntie would approve of like 4 husbands for me, so I don't think that's gonna work.
I would hope she wouldn't approve of 4 husbands for you. That would be a lot to handle, just putting it out there. I have 1 and they get tough on some days. But the show kind of ended with you going on a date, and it looked like a really fun date. I mean, of course, this is an edited, you know, beautified version of it. But what happened there? Was there any scope to kind of take that further and kind of see where that went?
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, what you guys saw was actually very real. I had one of the best dates I've ever had with Shaker. Like in life, not even just on the show. I felt like we had really just instantly connected, like when we were on the boat tour with my mom. And like there were points where the 2 of them were just talking and I was just kind of like sitting back and observing. And then he brought up Guyana and I was like, what? And so I was like, wow, either like, you know, regardless if he researched or if he whatever, I was still very impressed that he like brought his A game. And then, I mean, there was a point where the cameras were off, but we were hanging out that day and we were with the whole crew and my mom was still there and we were sitting next to each other at lunch and chatting. And I had totally forgotten that there was people even around us. Because I was just so engrossed in the conversation. And so, yeah, I mean, when you saw us kind of like walking away, that was literally us just like we were leaving to go to continue our date. And so I had a really great time and we did date for a few weeks after the show, or after filming had ended. But you know, after a little while, it gets hard, and we kind of realized that, you know, he's a great guy, but you know, we just weren't for each other. We actually, I mean, we still chat. So actually tonight we have a, you know, FaceTime appointment with one another, just to catch up. And so, you know, he's a good friend.
That's so nice. Because you mentioned so many times in the show, and so did Seema Auntie, I have to ask you, and you can choose to answer this as candidly as you'd like. Why was it made to be such a big deal? Like, why were people, rather, not you, why did people make it out to be such a big deal that you were like part Guyanese? Like, I feel like every country out there is beautiful. So why was that made to be such a, like, you know, issue on it? Because I felt like it was so normal.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's normal too. But I think, I mean, in my, you know, aside from the show, even in my real life, when I have really primarily only dated Indian guys, I guess Gujaratis primarily, because that's all that I find in North Jersey. But it was always a pain point to be like, oh, you're not Indian, so that's gonna be a problem with my parents. And I was like, how am I not? Like, if you take 2 seconds to just learn a little bit more about me, like, you will learn that we're not that different. But I think this was kind of from like back in the day when like everyone was a Great Britain colony and, you know, indentured workers were brought to Guyana to work. They were seen as not like elite as people from mainland India because they were brought as slaves. And so I think that like connotation of Indo-Caribbean people was still remained, and then people just didn't take the time to even like learn about it. I feel like a lot of people that I speak to don't even know that Indians live in Guyana. They're like, oh, but you look Indian. I'm like, well, how do you think I look like this? Like, my ancestors had to come from somewhere.
Well, I'm glad that you got to put so much on the map, and I'm glad that you got to just be out there and be yourself. And especially, like I said earlier, the points that you made about standing up for yourself and the way you did stand up for yourself, more importantly, was absolutely fantastic. Do you know where you're headed from here? Do you know what you have next? Are you planning to do more with everything? I'm sure you're enjoying all of the attention that's coming your way post the show.
Yeah, I have a few things in the works right now. Can't share many details about them, but stay tuned. But yeah, I mean, definitely doing some weddings. I have some COVID weddings coming up. And then just, kind of staying focused on myself right now. But yes, there are a few projects.
That's the best thing to do. Focus on yourself. Thank you so much for coming onto my channel. This has been such a pleasure to just sit down and talk to you and get to pick your brains about what the entire experience was like, because this show has been one of a kind for so many of us to watch. So we've sort of lived vicariously through you guys on Netflix.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you. Alright you guys, and with that this video comes to an end. If you did enjoy watching this video, tell me what you enjoyed most by talking to me down below in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button as well and turn on those bell notifications for updates on all of the videos that I'm still to share with you, because I promise you there is a lot coming up soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Mwah. Love you guys. Bye.